we got a $1,000 check and we're doing that smile and the handshake, and that's so boring to any donor? Or are we saying, thanks to gifts from you, we've helped change a life, and it's only because of your gift and the combination of others that we were able to do this. Without you, this life would not have been changed. Now that is remarkable. So I always get passionate about it because most organizations don't do this. But it's the reason organizations like, I've worked with Charity Water, the reason they're so incredibly remarkable. If you ask Charity Water, like, what makes you remarkable, they say, Carter, it's because there's not one person or one village in this entire world that we can't bring fresh water to. It's just that we need the money to do it. There's literally no place on earth that we can't go and do that. And I'm like, so that's incredible. You know, there's not all these barriers and all this stuff. So there are some nonprofits who are learning to be more and more remarkable. And I'm not saying you guys can become the next Apple at your mission, but what I'm saying is, one of the takeaways I'd encourage you to think about is, in my job every day, how do I do my work in a different way to be remarkable that's going to be noticed, that's going to help our donors feel more valued and more connected to us and those kind of things. So that's kind of the purple cow reference, the being remarkable that you always hear Carter talk about. And I encourage you to do that, because it's nice, because sometimes I hear organizations talk with me or heard me talk about it that say, hey Carter, I'm being remarkable this way, and I'm like, that's awesome, and it's good. We heard Ivan Rob Tart was talking this morning in the session about how the mission is deciding to buy buildings through the endowment and paying themselves back. That's a remarkable concept. Like, you're loaning yourself money, so you're really not borrowing from a bank. It's free, and you're opening all these thrift stores. That is, I mean, in my world, my wife would probably look at me and go, thrift stores, Carter, really excited about it? But that's really cool to me. That's a remarkable experience. So there's some pockets of, that being done. So anyway, I'll get off remarkable, but that's what it's all about for you guys to be thinking about.
I have a question about that refund thing. How is someone able to get a write-off on that with that guarantee?
That's what we got. That's what you have to talk through. There's all sorts of stipulations. There's ways to do that, but that's the kind of thing. Obviously, that you're not going to say it's a money-back guarantee with no stipulations. The money-back guarantee has the this is not tax deductible if we give your money back. That kind of thing. Yeah. Not in those words, but
it's the expectation of a return, which technically, when you give for a tax write-off, you get nothing in return.
Right.
But this is like guaranteeing that there's a possibility of a return.
Yeah.
So it kind of, to me, it seems like it negates the initial gift in the
Not
first
everybody
place.
likes purple cow. And my point is made. I'm just joking, but it's so true. There's always but what about, and I honestly, I don't know the answer, but my point is, get this stuff done. Be radical, think about some things. You're being radical with ViewSpark. I mean, I really think it's an amazing product that, like, years ago, I would have never thought that's going to work, but it's a remarkable product. You've done it, and there's all sorts of examples. We could, again, spend a bunch of time talking about it, but we're already doing some things like that, but I always like to just camp on it to make sure you're thinking that way, because it does inspire, greatness and thinking about how to do things differently. Were you going to say something?
Well, yeah, just talking with Jeff down here at the end of the table. He also uses his platform to help teach you how to use it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a funny little twist. I just get a kick out of that. But anyhow.
That's the fundraiser in me.
That's an aside.
Yeah. But that's that's just something I'm passionate about to think about. It's just a takeaway. But now we'll get into the more fundamental stuff. We just have some other things we wanted to talk about. I'll get off of purple cow and we'll keep moving forward. So number one is making sure you're investing in those relationships that compound. The word compound is a funny one, but when you guys think of just about in your own life of putting money in a 401k, you put it in when you're young, you leave it, and you watch it grow. So in the world of fundraising and with donor relationships, when you invest in relationships, you're going to have donors that are going to stay with you longer, right? They're gonna give more often, most likely, they're gonna deepen their commitment, and then they're gonna understand their role in the mission, because they're getting stories about how the gift's being used. Side note on this story, just in terms of just a fundamental thing that I heard one time, there was a donor that decided to give $20,000 to 6 different organizations, $20,000. And one of those organizations thanked them. Literally 5 did not. Now that should scare you to death. You're like, you gotta be kidding. Not only did one of them thank them, but the president wrote a handwritten letter of 1 page, full letter, thanking this donor, because they were not a big organization, and they thanked them like profusely. The next year, of course, what happened? That donor took $120,000 and gave it all to that one organization, and stopped giving to any of the others. Guys, I guarantee we've heard stories like that around, but it happens all the time, and it just blows my mind. Why not invest in relationships and deepen what you're doing with your donors that you have to keep them and grow them? Because that pyramid is going away, and we better have donors for the trapezoid. For your area, like in the majors, you're seeing the growth. That's going to continue. That's where to focus your time and your energy. But you got to start at the bottom, you know, and kind of grow your way up. So that's one of the things, is make sure you're investing in relationships that will compound over time. If you take the time now to thank them properly and to give them opportunity to give again, and then close that loop of the giving cycle, it's gonna benefit you in a big way. Here's just a quick example of that in terms of the compounding. So on the left side are donors that give less than 3 gifts in terms of frequency, and in this case, retention rate. This was all of our clients, the BDI clients, again, about 50 of them, but those that gave less than 3 gifts had retention rates of 55% and a 5-year long-term value of $313. On the other hand, donors that gave 3 or more gifts had a retention rate of 90% and a lifetime long-term value of $2131 over the same 5 years. So you can see the 7 times more long-term lifetime / value to date by getting a donor to give 3 or more times. So from a practical sense, that means, well, what are we going to do to create more opportunities for our donors to give more frequently? Duh, obviously, but it's one of those things like, well, maybe we ought to invest more in that, as opposed to continuing to just churn and burn the bottom of the pyramid. So that's what that point is. So that's one big one. Go to the next one. The other thing is to make sure that you're measuring what matters. Back to the data conversation. We want to make sure that we're tracking donor health in the following ways. So retention by segment, like how are our new donors retaining? When we get a donor to give in year 1, how are they retaining and giving into year 2? Is that increasing, or is it going backwards? If it's going backwards through the previous years, what are we going to do to change that? Again, there's some fundamental things that we should be doing that most organizations get, but they don't always do. I've heard stories like just a basic, how long does it take you to get a thank you receipt package to a donor when they give a first gift? And they're like, 6 weeks. And I'm like, you've lost them. How's your retention rate? It sucks. Of course it does. What if you could get it out within 48 to 72 hours? Guess what? It's just those little things, and it's so easy to lose sight of. So anyway, that's the thing by segment. Make sure we're measuring upgrades or downgrades through the movement of your file. Lifetime value, we already talked about. What's cumulative annual giving look like, and what's giving frequency? And so really make sure you're tracking those metrics, and make sure that you're focusing your time and energy based on what those metrics tell you. It's another one of those, well, of course we need to do that, but not everybody does. And you'll probably see it with clients too, man. This gentleman here, we've worked together in the past, and a lot of us who've worked in the agency life, it's just we see this all the time. And so there's really important things you can do there. So measure what matters is the second big thing. The third is how we turn frequency into strategy. So we want to also track donors by giving behavior. So how do our one-time donors behave in their subsequent giving versus our repeat donors, or our 3+ gift donors, or our monthly donors, or those that give in multi-channel? If we can track how they behave and find out what they're doing then we do more of it to try to assure that more of our donors do that. There's another book that I love called Good to Great. If some of you have heard of this, or Great by Choice is another one. Great, another analogy besides Purple Cow to you guys to think about is fire bullets, then cannonballs, okay? The idea is, the author of this book is basically, you figure out what works first, and right when you figure out what works, launch cannonballs like you wouldn't believe to take advantage of it. So he uses the analogy of a pirate ship, and there's this pirate ship out in the middle of the ocean, and there's all these other ships around that they're all coming to close in on this ship and each other. And it's really foggy, and they can't see what's going on, so they don't even know how to launch the cannonballs because they don't know where they are. So what they decided to do was, we're going to fire bullets first to hear once we hit a ship. Then when we hit a ship, kind of like Battleship the game, once we hit it, we're going to launch this cannonball. Because we could be launching cannonballs all over the ocean and miss. But if we fire the bullets first and we hear like ping, 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 okay, and launch the cannonballs, then we're going to start sinking ships. And it's such a beautiful analogy. If we can fire bullets for our organization, don't fire bullets at your donors. But we're firing bullets to figure out what works. We're measuring what works with one-time gift and repeat and 3+. Whatever we get that works, that you spark, it worked, cannonball. And that's why so many missions love doing that work, because it's like, it works. Find out what works and do more of it. It's such a basic concept, but fire bullets and cannonballs, that is done by measuring these different areas to know what works or what doesn't work. And if you have donors, like if you're one-time donors, you're finding out like they just never pay for themselves. Well, then stop doing what you're doing and do something different, because you're wasting your money and your donors' money doing that. So, sounds again so basic, but that's another. And you please feel free to jump in here if there's something else you want to share. I know I'm just rambling. Are we okay on time?
We're good.
Making sure we can interact together. The other thing is, and I mentioned earlier, is build a sustainer pathway. So this is another really big area that we're focused on at BDI right now, and it's about sustainer programs and how to generate more and more donors to move them into sustainers. Because in this is another one of those things, and about the difference in the giving generations is the younger generation is kind of like investing in members. So, you know, I get our monthly bill, and I forgot that we signed up for Netflix, MGM, Apple TV. I mean, all of a sudden the bill's like, we got 45 things we're subscribed to, but the fact is I never change those, because there could be a show on that we want to watch. And I've had my wife do this, like, why did you cancel that one? We love that show, that reality show. But I don't know, I thought I'd save $9.95. But the younger generation is ones that's like, set it and forget it. So if I invest, my kids do, you know, iTunes and Apple Music and all that stuff, and they're like, they just set it and forget it. They are also doing this within philanthropy, where they're setting up their regular giving, and then they're just doing it. So they choose, like, this is a really cool charity, I'm going to give to that because it's cool, I want to be part of that. And then they leave it. And so the idea is, how do we get more younger donors into monthly giving, as well as our regular donors, and give them more opportunity to get into that sustainer model, so that they this is the generation we're all kind of signing up for these membership things and, you know, doing it and forgetting it. We can do more of that as a mission too, right? That's the key.
And how are you seeing those captivated? Like normally, traditional, like through a banquet, we would, a lot of your older, long-term donors.
Yeah.
But this newer generation, what are we seeing working with them?
Well, and you guys please weigh in here. What I see is, with the younger generation, you need to talk with them about how cool it is to help change a life. Not like, hey dude, this is awesome, but in a way that, like, you're using photos of inspiration with young people. Like, I think about back to Cherry Water. You see the kids splashing in the water in the village, and that's cool. And, you know, the younger generation, like, I want to help. So what do we do as a mission? Not to always show an old man eating, you know, over a plate of food, but what else can we show the younger generation about the coolness of other things that we do as a rescue mission that they might want to get involved with? Volunteering is really cool for the younger generation. They love volunteering. are we giving enough opportunity? Are we showing that in our banquets? I mean, for the younger folks, or younger folks aren't even going to come to a banquet, let's face it. They're not even going to, they're like, no way am I, Dad, I'm not going to a banquet. But the older generation, that's what, you know, we would go to or whatever, but that's what I'm seeing. Do you guys have other things like that?
I think something I've kind of correlate to that is with the older generation, there's a faith trust thing.
Yeah.
The older generation has more faith. They have more open trust
Yeah.
with others. Whereas the younger generation is the exact opposite.
You're right.
It's, I've got to see it. You got to earn my trust.
Bingo.
And so we're at this point where it's been like this, and now we've crossed over.
Yeah.
And
You're exactly right.
there's so much out there that causes distrust that the younger generation feels like that you have to earn their trust.
Yeah.
So
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Carter, could you explain what you mean by younger donors?
Yeah. So that's a great question because we are.
Because we're not talking about 18-year-olds.
No,
Yeah.
no, I was thinking like 35 to 40-year-olds
Yeah.
in my definition, but do you agree with that? Because it could,
Like the millennial.
yeah, definitely not like the teenagers.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have money in like 20 years.
yeah, millennials are old now.
They are. Isn't that scary?
Well, that's why I say that, because
No,
I think
you're
sometimes
right.
we say young.
Yeah.
We're not talking about.
You know, it's a great point, because you know what? Talk about a waste of money.
I'm at the
I
end
have
of the
organizations say that, like, we have got to acquire those 18-year-olds. We have got to get them. We're like, no, don't do that. There's all this next generation.
They don't have money to
between.
give right now.
No, they don't. Trust, as a dad, man, my kids come to me for money all the time. I'm saying,
It'll be your money either way.
yeah. No, that's a great point. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So, but anyway, sustainers is another big thing to be focused on. And by the way, I'm not talking about sustainers as the old-fashioned bed and breakfast club or whatever we used to call it, friend of the friendless. There was these older time, you know, they worked fine for the older generation, but you need to make sustainer cool again. You know, you got to make it like, what do I get to become a sustainer? In the rescue mission world, it's hard because you don't have anything tangible. It's not like, I'm really dating myself. Remember the Columbia House, you know, you pay a penny and you get 13 free cassettes, and then, you know, then you buy 8 more. Well, that was cool back then, but we don't have that kind of thing to give away. But there's intangible things like when you become a monthly sustainer, your gift's going to help change lives, and we're going to show you. We're going to provide you every month. We're going to share with you a story of a life that's been impacted because of you. That's cool, and that's the kind of thing that most organizations, you guys, don't do that. They're like, well, we're going to send out the form letter, and it's going to have 3 paragraphs, and it's going to say, thank you for your $25 gift, and that's it. So it's like building a program that's going to make sense. So we have a slide here. We only have 70 more slides to go, you guys, so just buckle up. No, we don't. We're getting there. We're getting toward the end. But this is an example of a sustainer program, and one of the things that we talk about in terms of a sustainer program as part of digital is these pathways that you built across, so you create this donor experience within digital for sustainers. So there's some things that we point out here, like accelerator campaigns. That's when you have a concentrated time during the year where you're really promoting monthly giving. So it's like, I don't know, let's say it's July. I'm making this up. Terrible month, by the way, because that's not, let's say January. That's even better. But we take the month of January, and any time that you get a digital communication, or you go to a landing page, or you go to make a gift, there's always the monthly gift thing it's just at you. It's pop-ups, it's, you know, all the ways that you can create that digital experience. So it's sort of a campaign within the campaign that you need to really spend time promoting 3 or 4 weeks, that kind of thing. Make sure you're combining your email and digital media. You have coordination between the two. Again, consistent messaging so that you're seeing that monthly offer. Website conversion audit. This is something that we want to make sure that, and we provide to our clients, we audit their websites to make sure that that experience is really seamless and it's easy and it's easy to sign up, because the worst thing is, like, I do want to become a monthly giver, and then I can't figure out how to do it. So now I got to call the mission. I mean, talk about a bad experience. but trying to figure out even how to do it. We want to make it super easy. And then also, make sure we're giving monthly giving options at key decision points. So, for example, we know that when a donor first gives to the mission, it's really critical during that first 30 days, ideally, to try to get another gift. Now, some people have the philosophy, especially the older generation, I want to rest my donor when they recently gave to me, because after all, they just gave, so I don't want to be like, I don't want to be pestering them for another gift. It's actually just the opposite in fundraising. The donors that most recently gave are the ones that want to give again. So with that in mind, during that first 30 days of a first gift to the mission by a new donor, give them an opportunity to give monthly. In fact, a few different times to try to get them into that subscription idea to become an ongoing donor. So this is just an example for some of our clients that we do to show some of the ways that we try to get them into a gift program. By the way, the other thing that's a real sweetener that's still a remarkable thing in the nonprofit world is matching gifts. If we can double a donor's gift, who doesn't like their money doubled, right? And it just still works so well that's another thing to do. And I'm always a big believer in a true match. Like, if you don't give, we're not going to get the money. Now, that's the best kind of match there is. Like, we have a donor that's going to give $20,000, but if we don't raise it, we don't get it. And so most organizations hate that because they're like, Carter, we want the money. We don't want to say. But if you have a donor that says, I'm not going to give it unless you get it, man, those campaigns do phenomenally well. Because then you can go back out and say, by the way, we only have 2 weeks to go. And this is really, we're 15,000 of the 20. Can you help us get the extra? And it works. I mean, it just does. So that's a sweetener that you could consider.
To me, those are easier to market than challenge gifts,
Totally.
where I'm giving 10,000 and I
Yeah.
want people to give 10,000 more.
Yeah,
On the other end, it's like, well, if they're already getting 10,000, why
I
do they
know.
need more?
that's a slip. I know, it's so hard. It's a slippery slope. It's like, well, how do we really say their money's doubled? If we're going to challenge you to double the donor's gift, but it's not really a match,
Right.
right? It's kind of a match. It's loose. You wordsmither, man. You're the creative. You gotta, you just lay it at your feet. You can figure this out, right? Yeah, great. The creatives, but I know how it goes. But anyway, we can go to the next slide. Okay, build a mid and major gift program. I know this is another one of those that say, it sounds so basic, but it's an area that I'm passionate also about. I did a lot of work in this area for about 10 years. I was with a company called Veritas Group for many years, one of the partners there, and we worked with about 250 mid and major gift officers. We actually managed them on behalf of the organization. So we would be brought in to say, hey, Carter, you're going to manage 6 of my major gift officers, and et cetera. And this is a really, really key area, and we talked about this with your mid and major gifts, like you're seeing tremendous growth there. So you're probably wisely going after building more and more of those types of relationships and adding more mid and level gift officers to build those relationships. So there's all sorts of principles. I could spend so much time in this area, but the point is, it's really important that you build both a mid and major gift program in our experience, because as we talked about the trapezoid, you can't just build a major gift program, because then where do you get the people that are going to graduate into major? That it's really important to have a mid-level strategy in place so that you can transition people who are new to regular givers to more of a midpoint that you can then try to upgrade to major. And there's a whole pathway that you can develop. And if you're intentional about that, you can get amazing growth. Because the further up the pyramid we go in the pyramid world, the higher the return on investment is going to be. It's obvious. Where we saw 1%, that amazing reality, that little 1%, the amount of money that they give, it's just another thing to, if you don't have a mid or major gift program in this room right now with your mission, talk to me. I'll tell you what you need to know. Even if we don't work together, I'll tell you what I would do, because it's such an important area that you should be focused on. So many different organizations define mid and major different. We chose to focus mid on $1,000 to $9,999 and a major of $10,000 plus. I've worked with other organizations. They say their mid-level is $500 to $1,500 and a major is $1,500 more. Depends on the size of your organization. So it's not like you have to say, well, Carter, we only have 4 donors that give us $10,000 or more. We can't have a major gift program. I'd say, yes, you can, your threshold is way too high. Bring it down and manage more donors at lower levels and work on upgrading those. So there's all sorts of ways to do that, but that's really an important one. And then the next slide is sort of a part B to it, which is also, remember the beauty of mid and major donors is you can get them to fund things that normal donors or regular donors will not even consider, right? And you guys know this. Like, I've worked with organizations where they're like, we need to buy a van at our rescue mission. Well, it flops to the regular donors, but we go to 4 major donors and say, listen, we got a van we got to buy. It's $45,000. But if we can get 4 of you to do that, we can actually go out and provide 4 times the amount of help in our community to change lives. And mid-major donors are like, where do I sign up? Right? You probably see it all the time. It's these bizarre offers like, how could we possibly ever get someone to fund that? Well, I see it happen all the time. It's crazy, but it works because these donors are so bought into your cause, they're going to want to help you. So anyway, that's just, make sure you're thinking about mid and majors if you aren't already, because that can take your ministry to new heights. It really will. And that's important. And I know it's hard to find talent if you're going to try to manage major donors. That's a whole other thing, because great mid and major gift officers are hard to find. But I'm telling you, I've worked with some that are mid-20s that rock the world. I've worked with one new 25-year-old at a rescue mission in Orange County. It was the Orange County Rescue Mission. I'll just tell you right now, I worked with like 26 years to be exact. We brought in a 25-year-old woman who had never done it before. Her caseload in the first year grew 40%. So talk about growth. And she's just like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, here, just the basics. And you mean I should say that to this donor? And yeah, you're going to present that proposal, and it's like everything turned to gold. And by the way, that same person sent me a package in my mail. Came to my door, and somebody knocked, and I opened it, and it said, from your remarkable team at the Orange County Rescue Mission. I said, what are you kidding? I open it, and there's a purple cow inside the package. And they're like, I got you. And they had all signed this handwritten note. Carter, here's why I think you're the best coach I've ever worked with. And it was like, I said, you're remarkable to me. I can't believe it. You got me. It was beautiful. I mean, it's like awesome. And they gave me a whistle with my name on it. And I was like, this is cool. So anyway, I got done myself. But anyway, don't give up, and don't believe that you need some like major gift officer that has 14 years of experience. We got to go unpaid like tons of money. No. I'm telling you, if you get the right people who can do this type of work, you can do phenomenally well. And don't shy away from it. You yourself can do it. So I've seen it all the time. Anyway, is this our last one? Tell the bigger story. A couple more. Tell a bigger story. We talked a little bit about it, but 50% of social media users, this is the fact, that give online said that storytelling is the factor that motivates them to give the most. So it goes back to, are we being remarkable to tell stories in ways that are truly inspiring and are going to lead to folks to want to do it again, to want to give to us again? And I know it takes time. I go back to ViewSpark. The reason that works so well is you're being remarkable in storytelling about actual humans' lives. I mean, we all are in the business of changing human lives. We're not that there's nothing wrong rescuing animals right now. By the way, if you put a puppy on anything, direct mail, digital, it'll do phenomenal. Everybody loves dogs. We call it puppification. Puppification. I'm telling you, I've worked with major gift officers who put their little photo of the puppy on their letter. These guys rock the house. I'm like, the dog was on there, but yeah, everybody loves the dog. Anyway, we're in the business of transforming lives. We have the opportunity to tell those stories in a really remarkable way, and it's not like rocket science. If we just tell the story, that is going to inspire donors. So make sure you're telling stories in a really robust way to try to motivate longer-term giving and building those relationships. That's another key one. So anyway, Kat, do you want to, with all that in mind, do you want to talk about either the last slide or the discussion we want to have?
Yeah, I'll talk about this and we can go into discussion for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
So we developed this presentation into a report, and the pieces that I wanted to put into this presentation that we didn't have time for, we also put into the report, because there's so much that we could talk about on this topic. So we have the digital version to give to each of you. So if you have a business card or just want to come up and give me like your name and email or some way I can send it to you, we'll send it to you after this session. So we have it all for this group that came today.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Anything, back on, is there anything else? Do we want to just talk questions?
Yeah.
Anything else? I think that was mainly the big categories. Anything else helpful, feedback, other ideas, thoughts? I mean, that's